The lawyer's pen froze halfway to the paper, and I just knew something was about to go horribly wrong. "Mrs. Patterson, before you sign," Mr. Garrett's face had gone the color of old newspaper, the kind that's been sitting in the rain. His eyes weren't on me anymore. They were fixed on the doorway behind me, wide and terrified, like he'd seen a ghost walk into his office in broad daylight. I turned around. She stood there like she owned the place. Hell, the way she looked at me, you'd think she owned the whole damn world. Tall, elegant, early 70s, maybe about my age, wearing a silk scarf that probably cost more than my car payment and shoes that clicked on the hardwood floor like a countdown timer. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Even her grief looked perfect, if that makes any sense. But it was her eyes that made my blood run cold. Green eyes. Henry's eyes. The same shade of sea glass green I'd stared into for 40 years. "Well," she said, her voice smooth as expensive whiskey. "Isn't this cozy?" I gripped the edge of Mr. Garrett's desk. My wedding photo sat right there, propped up next to the deed I was supposed to sign. Me and Henry, 1978, both of us so young and stupid and in love we could barely stand straight. I'd brought it to remind myself why I was doing this, why I was fighting through the grief to handle the estate, to keep moving forward even though half of me was buried 6 feet under with my husband. "I'm sorry," I managed. "Do I know you?" She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Not yet. But you knew my husband." She stepped closer, heels clicking, clicking, clicking. "Or should I say our husband?" The room tilted. What are you?" "Oh, sweetheart." She said it like she pitied me, like I was the other woman. "Hank never told you about me, did he?" Hank. Nobody called him Hank. Not me, not our friends, not even his brother. Henry was Henry, solid, dependable, boring Henry, who wore the same cologne for 40 years and ate the same breakfast every Sunday and died in our bed with my hand holding his. "Mr. Garrett," I whispered, not taking my eyes off her. "What is this?" The lawyer cleared his throat. He looked like he wanted to crawl under his desk and die. "Mrs. Patterson, this woman has come forward with she claims to have—" "Oh, for God's sake, Gerald, stop stammering." The woman reached into her designer purse. Of course she had a designer purse, and pulled out a leather folder. She opened it with practiced ease, like she'd done this before, like she'd been waiting to do this. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. I didn't want to look at it. Every instinct I had screamed at me to run, to grab my wedding photo and get out of that office and pretend this wasn't happening. But I looked anyway. A marriage certificate. Official seal, fancy letterhead, the works. Henry James Patterson and Diane Louise Morrison. Married the 15th of June, 1968. The numbers burned into my brain. 1968. 10 years before I met Henry. 10 years before he'd asked me to dance at that company Christmas party, before he'd taken me to dinner, before he'd gotten down on one knee in my tiny apartment and promised me forever. There's been a mistake. My voice didn't sound like mine. Henry was never married before. He told me he said I was his first wife? Diane God. Even her name sounded expensive, tilted her head. "Oh, honey, I'm sure he told you lots of things. He would have divorced you. If this is real, he would have, quote, filed the papers?" She smiled again, and this time it had teeth. "Signed the documents? Made it official?" She leaned down, and I could smell her perfume, something floral and foreign, and nothing like the drugstore perfume I'd worn for 40 years. Funny thing about Hank, he was always better at starting things than finishing them. Mr. Garrett's hands shook as he picked up the marriage certificate. He studied it for a long moment, too long. When he finally looked up at me, I saw the truth in his face before he even opened his mouth. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm afraid this appears to be legitimate. The seal is authentic, the registration number checks out, and according to public records," he swallowed hard, "there's no record of divorce." The room spun. I gripped the desk harder, my knuckles going white. "What does that mean?" Diane answered before the lawyer could. "It means, sweetheart, that the estate you're trying to claim, the house you've been living in, the land, the bank accounts, all those precious memories, She straightened up, smoothing her perfect scarf. They're not yours. They never were. That's impossible. I lived there for 40 years. I planted the garden. I painted the walls. I buried him there. I scattered his ashes in my garden, Diane said softly. On my land. In my house. I stared at her. At those green eyes that looked so much like Henry's, they made me want to scream. I know this is difficult, Mr. Garrett said, and he sounded genuinely sorry. But until we can sort out the legal status of both marriages, the estate is frozen. No one can claim anything. Not yet. Diane picked up my wedding photo. She studied it like it was evidence in a crime scene. 1,978, she murmured. He had good taste, I'll give him that. You look happy. She set it down, pushing it toward me like a consolation prize. Tell me something, did he ever mention a daughter? The floor dropped out from under me. What? A daughter. Diane's smile was pure poison now. Sarah, born 1970. She's 45 now. Lovely girl. Looks just like her daddy. She turned toward the door, heels clicking that terrible rhythm again. She'll be coming to collect what's rightfully hers. I'd start packing if I were you, sweetheart. You've got 72 hours before we change the locks. Wait, you can't just... She paused in the doorway, glancing back over her shoulder. Oh, one more thing. That locked room in the hallway? The one Hank told you was just storage? Her smile widened. You might want to take a look inside before you leave. I left the key on the kitchen counter. Consider it a parting gift. She walked out, and I sat there in that lawyer's office with my unsigned deed and my wedding photo and the marriage certificate that said my entire life had been built on a lie. Mr. Garrett cleared his throat. Mrs. Patterson, I think we should schedule another meeting. Once you've had time to... He never mentioned a first wife, I whispered. 40 years, 40 goddamn years, and he never said a word. I stood up. My legs felt like water, but I stood anyway. Mrs. Patterson, I need to see that room, I said. The locked one. I need to see what else he kept from me. I grabbed my wedding photo and walked out of that office, and with every step, I felt 40 years of trust crumbling underneath my feet like old, dry paper. The key was exactly where she said it would be, sitting on my kitchen counter like a snake waiting to strike. The key burned in my pocket the whole drive home. What a joke that word was now. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. And then I heard her. Those clicking heels on my porch, that expensive perfume drifting over my shoulder like smoke. Need help with that? Diane's voice was honey, sweet and razor sharp all at once. I spun around. What are you doing here? I thought we could do a walkthrough together. She smiled like we were old friends meeting for tea. Woman to woman, widow to widow. You know, sort out what's yours and what's mine before things get ugly. Things are already ugly. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. She gestured at the door. May I? May I? Like she was asking permission to enter her own house. Like this was some kind of sick game where she already knew all the rules and I was just figuring out I'd been playing. I unlocked the door. What choice did I have? According to that marriage certificate, this was legally hers. The house I'd lived in for 40 years. The home where I'd raised my son, where I'd nursed Henry through cancer, where I'd held his hand and watched him take his last breath. All hers. The living room hit me like a fist. 40 years of memories staring back at me, family photos covering every surface, my needlepoint hanging above the fireplace, 12 months of work, my hands cramping every night. Henry's reading chair by the window where the afternoon light was just right. His coffee mug was still on the side table. I couldn't bring myself to wash it. 6 months, and I still couldn't wash his damn coffee mug. Diane walked in behind me, and I swear to God, the temperature dropped. She didn't gasp or pause or show even a flicker of surprise. She just walked through my living room like she'd been there 1,000 times before. Her fingers trailed along the mantel, touching the photos, the knickknacks, the little porcelain bird Henry bought me on our 20th anniversary. You have good taste, she said. I'll give you that. Get your hands off my things. Your things? She picked up a wedding photo, me and Henry cutting the cake, both of us laughing, frosting on his nose. This is my house, remember? Everything in it belongs to me. Technically, you've been squatting for 4 decades. My vision blurred. Rage or tears, I couldn't tell which. He loved me, I whispered. Whatever happened between you two, whatever reason he had for that, I couldn't even say the word marriage. He loved me. He chose me. Did he? Diane set down the photo, angling it so I couldn't see our smiling faces anymore. Or did he just choose the path of least resistance? She moved to the bookshelf, running her fingers over the spines. Hank was always good at that, running away, starting over, pretending the past didn't exist. Stop calling him Hank. Why? That's his name. Or it was, before he reinvented himself for you. She pulled out a photo album, the old leather one from our first year together. She flipped it open, studying pictures of a man I thought I knew. Did he tell you about Vietnam? Of course, he was a medic, Purple Heart. He never liked to talk about it, but he was never in Vietnam, sweetheart. The words hung in the air like poison gas. That's a lie. Is it? She closed the album with a soft thud. Check his military records. Oh wait, you can't, because they don't exist. She smiled. The Purple Heart in the shadow box upstairs belonged to his brother, Tom Patterson, died in Da Nang, 1969. Hank just borrowed his story, like he borrowed everything else. I couldn't breathe. The room was too small, too full of lies and memories, and this woman who was systematically dismantling my entire life. Why are you here? I managed. Why now? If you're his legal wife, if you own everything, why wait until he's dead? Why not show up when he was alive and what? Have a confrontation? Watch him choose between us? Diane's laugh was bitter. I tried that once. 1,975. Showed up at his office, demanded he come home. You know what he did? She leaned closer. He called the police, had me escorted out, filed a restraining order, and told everyone I was unstable, a crazy ex-girlfriend who couldn't let go. Then how if there was a restraining order? It expired. They all do, eventually. She walked down the hallway, and I followed because what else could I do? This was still my house. For 72 more hours anyway. I kept tabs on him over the years. Watched him build this perfect little life with you. Watched him play devoted husband and father, and I waited. For what? For him to die, obviously. She stopped in front of the hallway closet, the one I'd always assumed was storage. The one with the lock I'd never questioned because Henry said it was broken, that the key was lost, that it was just old paint cans and Christmas decorations and nothing worth bothering about. Diane reached into her purse, pulled out a key, a small brass key that looked exactly like the one burning in my pocket. How do you have? He sent it to me, 3 weeks before he died. She slid the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, like it had been used yesterday. Funny timing, don't you think? Like he knew, like he wanted me to find this. Find what? The door swung open. It wasn't a closet. It was a room. A small room, maybe 10 by 10, with a single window that had been painted black. The air that rushed out smelled like dust and secrets and time. And it was full. Photo albums stacked on a desk, boxes of letters tied with ribbon, baby clothes in clear plastic bins, a rocking chair in the corner, and against the far wall, a cradle. White wood, hand-carved, never used, never even assembled in the room where I'd rocked my son to sleep every night for his first year. My son, who grew up thinking he was an only child. My son, who spoke at Henry's funeral and called him the best father a man could ask for. My son, who had no idea his father had another daughter. Welcome to the life Hank kept from both of us, Diane said softly. After a fashion, I stepped inside on legs that didn't feel like mine. The photos were everywhere, covering the desk, pinned to the walls, a younger Diane holding a baby. Henry younger, different, with longer hair and sharper eyes, standing beside her with his hand on her shoulder. The baby growing into a toddler, a child, a teenager. A girl who had Henry's nose, his stubborn chin, his green eyes. I picked up a letter from the desk. The paper was yellowed, the ink faded, but the words were clear enough. Diane, I can't keep doing this. Sarah deserves better than a father who only exists on weekends. You deserve better than a man who can't choose. I'm starting over. Please don't contact me again. H. Dated 1977, 1 year before I met him. He left you, I whispered. He abandoned us. Diane corrected. There's a difference. Left implies a choice. Abandonment is… She touched the cradle, and for the first time, I saw something real in her face. Something that wasn't polished and perfect and poisonous. Abandonment is what you do when you're too cowardly to face what you've created. I looked around the room at 40 years of secrets, locked away 10 feet from where I slept every night, 10 feet from where I'd lived my entire adult life, thinking I knew the man I'd married. Why didn't he throw this away? My voice cracked. Why keep it? Why lock it up, but not destroy it? Because Hank was a coward, not a monster. Diane opened one of the photo albums. He couldn't face us, but he couldn't forget us either. So he did what he always did. He hid. He locked us away in a room and pretended we didn't exist. She turned the album toward me. Pages and pages of photos. A little girl losing her first tooth. First day of school. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. An entire childhood documented and hidden. Her name is Sarah, Diane said. She's 45. She lives in Portland. She's a nurse. Like her father, like her father said he was. Her smile was sharp again. She's been looking for Hank her whole life. Hired investigators, searched records, tried everything. And now that he's finally dead, now that there's an estate to settle, she's coming for it, I finished. No, sweetheart. Diane closed the album with a soft thud. She's coming for you. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this? A woman's voice, careful and nervous and heartbreakingly familiar, even though I'd never heard it before. Is this the woman who married my father, Henry Patterson? I looked at Diane. She was smiling. This is Sarah, the voice continued. I know my mother contacted you. I know she showed you the marriage certificate and the room, and God, I'm so sorry. But you need to listen to me very carefully. Her voice dropped to a whisper, urgent and afraid. Don't trust her. Don't trust anything she's told you. My mother isn't who she says she is, and if you want to keep your house, if you want to keep your life, you need to meet me tonight. Alone. I have proof. Proof that changes everything. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. At Diane. At the room full of lies. What did she say? Diane asked, and her voice was too calm, too controlled. I thought about the lawyer's face going white. The marriage certificate. This locked room. 40 years of deception. And I realized I had no idea who was telling the truth anymore. I didn't answer Diane's question. I just walked out of that room, past her expensive perfume and her poisonous smile, and I didn't stop until I was in my car with the doors locked. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. The unknown number was still on the screen, no name, no way to call back, just Sarah's voice echoing in my head. Don't trust her. Don't trust anything she's told you. But how could I trust Sarah? How could I trust anyone connected to the man who'd built his entire life on lies? I sat there in my driveway, or Diane's driveway, or whoever the hell's driveway it really was, staring at the house I thought I knew. Every window, every shingle, every flower in the garden I'd planted with my own bleeding hands. 40 years of my life, and all of it was suddenly foreign, contaminated. My phone buzzed again, a text this time. Moretti's Diner, Route 7, 8 p.m. Come alone. I'll be in the back booth, please. I'm not my mother, S. I looked at the clock. 6:47 p.m. Just over an hour. Through my windshield, I could see Diane standing in the doorway of my house. She wasn't leaving. She was just watching me, waiting to see what I'd do. I started the car. Moretti's Diner was the kind of place that hadn't changed since 1975. Cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lights that flickered and hummed, and coffee that tasted like regret. I'd driven past it 1,000 times but never stopped. Too far from home, too worn down, too much like the kind of place where bad news happens. Perfect for tonight. She was exactly where she said she'd be. Back booth, corner table, sitting with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to absorb its warmth. And when she looked up, oh God, it was like seeing Henry's ghost. Same green eyes, same stubborn set to her jaw, same way of tilting her head when she was nervous, like she was bracing for impact. My son looked like me, dark hair, dark eyes, my mother's narrow face. But this woman, she was pure Patterson. Every inch of her screamed Henry's genetics, his bloodline, his secrets made flesh. You came. Her voice cracked with relief. I wasn't sure you would. I slid into the booth across from her, keeping my purse close. My phone was in my pocket, 911 ready to dial. I didn't know this woman. Didn't know what she wanted, or who she really was, or if everything coming out of her mouth would be another lie. You have 5 minutes, I said. Then I'm leaving. Fair enough. She pushed the coffee away and reached down beside her, pulling up a manila envelope. It was thick, stuffed with papers, and when she set it on the table between us, I could see her hands were shaking as badly as mine. My mother lied to you, Sarah said, about almost everything. Which mother? Because right now I'm not sure I believe anything any Patterson has ever said. She flinched. I deserve that. She opened the envelope, pulling out papers with the careful precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. Our father did marry my mother in 1968. That part's true. And I was born in 1970. Also true. Then what's the lie? The divorce. She slid a paper across the table. Official letterhead, court seal, the whole 9 yards. December 1975, final decree. My father filed for divorce, my mother fought it, and after 2 years of legal hell it went through. She signed the papers, the judge approved it. It's done. Final, legal. I stared at the document. The words blurred together, irreconcilable differences, sole custody, division of assets, but the date was clear, 1975. 3 years before Henry asked me to dance at that Christmas party. Then why does she have a marriage certificate that says, because she forged it? Sarah pulled out another paper. Look at the dates. The one she showed you says 1968, right? Same as the original, but look at the registration number. Look at the county seal. Look at the paper itself. I compared them side by side. The one Sarah brought looked old, genuinely old, with creases and faded ink and the kind of wear that comes from being handled over decades. The one I'd seen in the lawyer's office. The paper's too white, I whispered, too clean. Because she printed it last month. Sarah pulled out more papers, printouts from ancestry websites, court records, newspaper clippings. My mother has been doing this for 20 years. She finds widows of men she used to know, forges documents claiming she was never divorced, and sues for the estate. She did it in Oregon in 2003. Got caught and served 18 months. Did it again in Nevada in 2009. That time she got 5 years. My stomach turned. How is she even out of prison? Good behavior, early release, and a name change every time she moves states. Sarah's voice was hollow. Her real name is Diane Louise Morrison Patterson Chen Whitmore. Take your pick. She's been married 4 times, divorced 3. Widowed once, and that poor man's daughter is still fighting to get her inheritance back. I couldn't breathe. The diner was too hot, too bright, too full of impossible information. Why would she? What does she even want? If she knows she'll get caught eventually. Money. Always money. Sarah pulled out a photo Diane, younger, being led out of a courthouse in handcuffs. She's a con artist. A good one. She targets widows who are still grieving, still confused, still vulnerable. She shows up with her forged papers and her sob story about the husband who abandoned her, and by the time anyone figures out she's lying, she's usually managed to drain bank accounts or sell property or… Oh God. I thought about the estate account, the one with Henry's life insurance payout, the one I'd been too grief-stricken to touch for 6 months. She asked me about the bank accounts, in the lawyer's office, She asked specifically about, "You need to freeze everything. Right now, before she can." The diner door chimed. We both looked up. Diane walked in with two men in dark suits, and they weren't lawyers. I knew that immediately. Lawyers don't move like that, all coiled muscle and dead eyes, and the kind of presence that makes normal people look away. "Oh no," Sarah whispered. No, 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 she followed you. I told you to come alone. I told you to make sure." "I did. I drove around for 20 minutes. I checked my mirrors. She put a tracker on your car." Sarah was already moving, shoving papers back into the envelope with panicked speed. "Or your phone, or your purse. It doesn't matter. She's here, and those men—" Her face had gone white. "Those men aren't here to talk." Diane spotted us. She smiled that same poisonous, perfectly composed smile and started walking toward our booth. The two men flanked her like guard dogs. "What do we do?" I hissed. "Run." Sarah grabbed my hand across the table, and I felt Henry's strength in her grip, his stubbornness, his desperate survival instinct. "There's a back exit through the kitchen. We run right now, and you go straight to the sheriff's office. Don't stop, don't look back, don't trust anyone except Sheriff Morrison. He's the only one who knows about her record. What about you?" "I'll slow her down." She shoved the envelope into my purse with shaking hands. "Everything you need is in there. Divorce decree, fraud charges, victim statements. Get it to the sheriff. Make sure he sees the part about the assault charge from 1989. Assault? She put a woman in the hospital when she tried to expose her in Nevada." Sarah's eyes were bright with tears. "Please, go, now." Diane was 10 feet away, 5 feet, close enough that I could smell her perfume. "Well, isn't this cozy?" she said, and her voice was ice. "My daughter and my husband's little widow, conspiring together. How touching." I stood up. Sarah stood with me. "Leave her alone, Mom." "Or what, Sarah?" Diane's smile never wavered. "You'll call the police? Tell them your convicted felon mother is harassing people again? That worked out so well for you last time. Last time you weren't breaking parole." The smile finally cracked. Just a little, just enough for me to see something dark and desperate underneath. "Those papers you gave her won't hold up in court," Diane said softly. "I've got lawyers, real ones, the kind that make problems disappear, the kind that make people disappear." One of the men in suits stepped closer. His hand moved to his jacket, and I saw— "Oh God." "We're leaving," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Right now. And if you try to stop us, I'll scream loud enough that every person in this diner will remember your face." "Scream all you want, sweetheart." Diane leaned close, and her breath was hot against my ear. "But remember, you're living in my house, sleeping in my bed, spending my money. And if you think those papers prove anything, ask yourself this: why would I show up with lawyers if I wasn't absolutely certain I'd win?" She pulled back, and I saw it, the absolute confidence of someone who'd done this before, someone who'd won before. "Sarah," I whispered, "we need to go, now." We ran. Through the diner, past shocked customers and a waitress who shouted something about the bill, straight into the kitchen where a cook yelled at us in Spanish. We burst through the back exit into an alley that smelled like grease and garbage, and Sarah grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the street. "My car's 2 blocks over. Can you run?" "I'm 67, not dead." We ran. Behind us, I heard the diner door slam open. Diane's voice, sharp and commanding, "Don't let them leave." Sarah's car was a beat-up Honda with a broken taillight. She threw herself into the driver's seat, I dove into the passenger side, and we were moving before I even got my door closed. "Sheriff's office?" Sarah gasped. "It's on Main Street, you know where—" "I know where it is." We drove in terrified silence, checking the mirrors every 3 seconds, expecting to see Diane's car or those men or police lights or something worse. But the road stayed empty. The night stayed dark. The sheriff's office appeared like a beacon brick building, American flag, lights on inside even at 8:47 p.m. Sarah pulled into the lot, killed the engine, and we just sat there for a moment, both of us shaking. "Thank you," I whispered, "for warning me, for all of this." "Don't thank me yet." She was staring at the envelope in my lap. We still have to convince them. And my mother, she's good at this. She's been doing it for decades. She knows exactly what to say, exactly how to lie, exactly. She made a mistake, though. I pulled out the divorce decree, studying it in the dome light. She told me Henry was never in Vietnam, that he stole his brother's story. Yeah. So? So I have his VA benefits paperwork at home, his medical records, his discharge papers. I looked at Sarah, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt something other than grief. If she's willing to lie about something that easy to verify, what else has she lied about? Sarah's face lit up. The marriage date, the restraining order, the everything. I opened the car door. Come on, let's go end this. We walked into that sheriff's office together, Henry's widow and Henry's daughter, united by the lies he'd left behind. And 3 hours later, after showing Sheriff Morrison every piece of evidence Sarah had collected, after he made phone calls to Nevada and Oregon and pulled up arrest records that made his face go hard, after he sent deputies to my house with a warrant, they found Diane in my living room with a suitcase full of jewelry, checkbooks, and forged power of attorney documents. She smiled when they handcuffed her. Even then, she smiled. "You think you've won?" she said to me as they led her past. "You think you know who Henry really was?" She laughed, a cold, brittle sound. "Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. That locked room? That was just the beginning." And as they pushed her into the patrol car, I saw her mouth 2 words through the window. "Ask Sarah." Sarah's face went white as chalk when Diane said my name through that patrol car window. What did she mean? I turned to her, but Sarah was already backing away, hands up like I was pointing a gun at her instead of just asking a question. "Sarah, what did she mean, ask Sarah?" "I don't. It's nothing. She's just trying to. Don't lie to me." My voice came out harder than I intended, sharp enough to make the deputy nearest us glance over. "I've had enough lies for 1 lifetime. What did your mother mean?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Not here, please. Not in front of." She looked at the sheriff's office, the deputies, the patrol car where Diane sat watching us through the window, with that poisonous smile still plastered on her face. "Give me 1 hour. 1 hour, and I'll tell you everything. I swear." Sheriff Morrison walked over, his keys jangling. He was a big man, mid-50s, with the kind of face that had seen too much and trusted too little. "Mrs. Patterson, we're taking her to county lockup. She'll be arraigned Monday morning. I'll need you to come in tomorrow to give a full statement." "What about the house? My accounts?" "Frozen pending investigation. But based on what we've found, the forged documents, her priors, the attempted theft tonight, I'd say you're in the clear." He glanced at Sarah. "Both of you should go home. Get some rest. This is going to be a long process." Sarah laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "Home. Right." We drove back to my house in silence. Sarah's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel, and twice I saw her wipe tears away with the back of her hand. She looked so much like Henry in that moment, that same terrible guilt he'd carried, that same weight of secrets pressing down until you couldn't breathe. The house looked different in the darkness, smaller somehow, like Diane's presence had poisoned it, shrunk it, turned it into something I didn't recognize anymore. "Come inside," I said. "We need to talk. I should just go. You don't need me here, you don't." "Sarah." I put my hand on her arm, and she flinched like I'd hit her. "Whatever it is, whatever she meant, I need to know. Please." She followed me inside like a prisoner walking to execution. I made tea. It's what you do when your world is falling apart. You boil water, you steep leaves, you pretend that civilization still exists in the form of proper cups and saucers. My hands shook as I poured, and when I handed Sarah her cup, she just stared at it like she'd never seen tea before. "Start talking," I said. My mother wasn't lying about everything. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. The marriage was real. The divorce was real. The abandonment. Her voice cracked. That was real too. "I know you showed me the papers. But there's something I didn't tell you. Something my mother knows. Something she's been holding over me for 20 years. She set down her tea with shaking hands. My father didn't just abandon us in 1975. He came back. The room tilted. What? 1983. I was 13. He showed up at our apartment in Seattle. We'd moved there after the divorce, trying to start over. He was different, older, going by Henry instead of Hank. But I recognized him immediately. You don't forget your father's eyes. I thought about the locked room, the photos that stopped at age 3 or 4. Your mother told me he never contacted you again. He didn't contact her. He contacted me. Sarah pulled something from her pocket, a folded piece of paper, worn soft from years of handling. He gave me this. Made me promise not to show my mother. Said it was our secret. She slid it across the table. It was a letter. Henry's handwriting, I'd know it anywhere, that messy scrawl that looked like a doctor's prescription. Sarah, I know I haven't been the father you deserved. I know I ran away when things got hard, and I know your mother has every right to hate me. But I need you to understand something. The man I was when I married her, Hank Patterson, the soldier, the husband that wasn't really me. That was someone I was trying to be. Someone I thought I should be. I'm different now. I have a new life, a new name. Well, my middle name, Henry James, remember? A new chance to get it right. And I think I'm finally ready to be the man I should have been all along. I'm getting married soon. To a good woman. A kind woman. The kind who deserves better than what I gave your mother. And maybe if you're willing, you could be part of that life. Not right away. Your mother can never know. But someday, when you're older, when you're ready. I love you. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do. Dad. The date at the top, April 1983, 5 years after he married me. He came back for you, I whispered. He wanted you in his life. He wanted me in his new life, his real life, the one where he got to pretend Diane never happened. Sarah's voice was pure acid. Do you know what that did to me? Knowing my father was out there, living happily ever after with some other woman, some other family, and I was just what? A loose end? A mistake he was trying to fix on his own terms? Did you ever see him again? Twice. She wiped her eyes. Once when I was 18, he took me to lunch, showed me pictures of his son, your son, and talked about how proud he was, how happy he was, how everything had finally worked out. Her laugh was broken glass. And I sat there eating a sandwich, looking at pictures of my half-brother, and pretended I was happy for him too. And the second time? Sarah's face crumbled. 3 months before he died, he called me out of nowhere, said he needed to see me, said there were things I needed to know before he was gone. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through old photos. He gave me the key to the locked room, made me promise to wait until after he died to open it. She showed me the photo. Henry, thin and gray from the cancer, sitting in a coffee shop with Sarah. Both of them looked miserable. What did he say when he gave you the key? He said, Sarah's voice broke completely now. He said he'd made a lot of mistakes, hurt a lot of people, and the worst part was, he didn't know how to fix any of it. So he was giving me the key and letting me decide what to do with everything inside. The photos, the letters, the cradle, his confession. She looked at me with Henry's eyes, full of Henry's guilt. He wanted someone to know the truth. All of it, not just the parts he was proud of. I thought about that locked room, about 40 years of marriage built 10 feet away from evidence of his first family. Why didn't you come forward earlier, when he was alive? Because he asked me not to. Sarah's hands were fists now. He said you didn't know about me. Said you were fragile, that the knowledge would destroy you. Said if I really loved him, I'd wait until he was gone to reveal everything. So, you protected him, even after everything he'd done. I protected you. She looked up at me, and I saw something fierce in her face. Something that wasn't Henry at all. You didn't deserve to spend your husband's last months finding out he'd been lying to you for 40 years. You deserved to hold his hand and say goodbye, and remember him as the man you thought he was. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Even if that man never really existed. We sat in silence. The kitchen clock ticked. Somewhere in the house, the furnace kicked on. "Is there anything else?" I finally asked. "Any other secrets? Any other families hidden away?" "No, I swear. I've been investigating him for 20 years, trust me, I've looked. It was just us, Diane and me first, then you and your son. No one else." "But your mother, when they arrested her, she said, 'Ask Sarah,' like there was something else, something worse." Sarah's face went gray. "There is, but it's not about our father, it's about her." She reached into her bag and pulled out another envelope. "After my mother went to prison the second time, Nevada, 2009, I started digging, really digging, and I found something." She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were photos. Crime scene photos. 1989, Seattle. A woman named Patricia Morrison was found beaten half to death in her apartment. She'd been dating my mother's ex-husband, not my father, a different one. Patricia tried to expose my mother's fraud scheme to the police. Sarah's voice was flat now, emotionless. "My mother did this. She was arrested, charged with assault with intent to kill. But the charges were reduced to simple assault because Patricia refused to testify, too scared. My mother served 18 months. I stared at the photos, the blood, the destruction. "Sarah, there's more." She pulled out newspaper clippings. 2003, Oregon. A widow named Carmen Chen. Yes, that's where my mother got one of her fake last names, tried to stop my mother from stealing her late husband's estate. Carmen's car went off a bridge 3 days before the trial, ruled an accident. No investigation. Oh my God. And in Nevada, 2009, the woman whose case finally put my mother in prison? She disappeared 2 weeks after the trial. Never found. Case went cold. Sarah looked at me with haunted eyes. "My mother isn't just a con artist. She's dangerous, really dangerous." And when she said, "Ask Sarah," the lights went out. All of them. The whole house plunged into darkness so complete I couldn't see my own hands. "Sarah?" My voice sounded too loud in the sudden silence. "Don't move." Her whisper was tight with fear. "She's here." "That's impossible. She's in jail. They arrested her." "Those men at the diner, the ones in suits, do you really think they were just lawyers?" Sarah's hand found mine in the darkness. "My mother has connections. People who owe her favors. People who—" A sound. From the hallway. The soft creak of a floorboard. "We need to get out," Sarah whispered. "Back door. Now. Stay low. Stay quiet." And the kitchen door slammed open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. And a voice, not Diane's voice, deeper, male, said, "Don't move. Either of you." Sarah squeezed my hand. "Run when I say run." "What?" "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But my mother was right about one thing." Her voice broke. "You have no idea who Henry really was, or what he did, or why my mother wants you dead." The flashlight found us, and Sarah shoved me toward the back door, screaming, "Run!" I ran. Behind me, I heard shouting, crashing, Sarah's voice yelling something I couldn't make out. I burst through the back door into the garden, my garden, the one I'd planted 40 years ago, now turned into a maze of shadows and terror. My phone. I needed my phone. I needed to call 911, needed to— My purse was still in the kitchen. I had nothing. No phone, no keys, no weapon. Just me and the darkness, and the sound of footsteps coming closer. I ducked behind the garden shed, pressing myself against the wall, trying not to breathe, trying not to scream, trying not to think about what Sarah had said. You have no idea who Henry really was, or what he did. The flashlight swept past. Once, twice, and then, "Mrs. Patterson." The voice was right there, inches away. "Come out. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help you." I didn't believe him, but I didn't have a choice. I stepped out into the light. The man holding the flashlight wasn't one of Diane's suited thugs. He was younger, maybe 30, with kind eyes and a sheriff's deputy badge glinting on his belt. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're safe now. We've been monitoring the house since we arrested Diane. We saw someone cut your power, came to investigate." "Sarah, there was a woman with me." We have her, she's fine. Shaken up, but fine. He helped me back toward the house, where police lights were now flashing in my driveway. We caught the guy who broke in. One of Diane's associates. He's being arrested now. My legs gave out. The deputy caught me. I don't understand, I whispered. Why would she? What does she want from me? That's what we're trying to figure out. He got me to a chair on the porch. Sarah was there, wrapped in a blanket, talking to Sheriff Morrison. When she saw me, she broke away and ran over. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I thought they were going to hurt you. I thought... What did you mean? I grabbed her shoulders. What you said in there, about Henry, about what he did. Sarah looked at Sheriff Morrison. He nodded. Your husband? Sarah said slowly. Wasn't just Hank Patterson who became Henry Patterson. Before that, before Vietnam, before my mother, before any of it. She took a shaky breath. He was Howard Patterson, and in 1966, he was wanted for questioning in connection with a bank robbery in Cincinnati. The case went cold when he enlisted using his brother's name. His brother who died in Vietnam. The world stopped spinning. No, that's impossible. Henry was a con man. Sheriff Morrison's voice was gentle but firm. We started pulling records after tonight. Your husband's fingerprints were in the system under 3 different names. He was never in Vietnam, his brother was. He stole his brother's identity to avoid questioning, then kept reinventing himself every decade or so. New name, new life, new wife. And my mother figured it out, Sarah said. Years ago, that's why she never gave up on the estate. Because Henry or Howard or Hank or whoever he really was stole money in that bank robbery, over $2 million. It was never recovered. And she thinks, it's here, I whispered. She thinks it's hidden here. In the house, Sheriff Morrison confirmed. And based on what we found tonight, she might be right. Because we searched that locked room more thoroughly. And behind those photo albums, behind 40 years of secrets, we found a wall safe, Sarah finished. Brand new combination lock. Professional grade. The kind you use when you have something really valuable to hide. They all looked at me. I don't know the combination, I said. I didn't even know the room existed until today. That's okay. Sheriff Morrison stood up. We're bringing in a specialist tomorrow. We'll open it, inventory whatever's inside, sort out what belongs to the estate and what might be evidence in. Wait. I stood up too, my mind racing. The letter. The one Henry gave Sarah. What was the date? Sarah pulled it out. April 15th, 1983. And what numbers did he emphasize? Did he underline anything, capitalize anything weird? She studied it. His middle name, Henry James. And the date written at the top, the 15th of April, 2083, he circled it. I always thought it was just to mark the day we met, but what if it was the combination? I looked at Sheriff Morrison. What if he was telling her the whole time, hiding it in plain sight? We went back inside, to the locked room, to the wall safe visible now behind the moved photo albums. Sheriff Morrison tried the combination. The 15th of April, 2083. Nothing. Try James, I said. Convert it to numbers. JAMES 10113519. He tried it. Nothing. I thought about Henry, about 40 years of lies, about a man who kept secrets in locked rooms and gave keys to daughters he'd abandoned. Try his brother's name, I said quietly. Tom. The one who really died in Vietnam, the one whose identity he stole, the one he owed everything to. TOM, Sheriff Morrison said. 201513. He dialed it in. The safe clicked. The door swung open. Inside were stacks of money, old bills, wrapped in plastic, organized by denomination. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. And sitting on top of it all, a handwritten note in Henry's messy scrawl. If you're reading this, I'm dead. And you finally know the truth. I'm sorry. For all of it. But I couldn't give it back. Too many years had passed. Too many lies had been told. So, I buried it here. In the room where I buried all my mistakes, and I hoped no one would ever have to know. I loved you, all of you, in my own broken way. H. Sarah started crying, real, broken sobs that shook her whole body. I just stared at the money, at the note, at 40 years of marriage summed up in 3 sentences and $2 million in stolen cash. Mrs. Patterson, Sheriff Morrison said carefully, this is evidence. We'll need to take it. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Take all of it. The money, the house, everything. I don't want any of it. Not anymore. The house is legally yours, he said. The money that'll be tied up in court for years. Might go to the bank it was stolen from, might go to Henry's victims, might… I don't care. I looked at Sarah. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight? She nodded, wiping her eyes. Then let's get out of here. I walked toward the door, past the safe full of blood money, past the photos of lies, past the cradle that had never held my children. I never want to see this place again. We walked out together, 2 widows of the same man, united by the truth he'd left behind like a bomb. And as we reached Sarah's car, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I'll be out in 48 hours, and when I am, I'm coming for what's mine. You can't hide from me. Neither of you can. D. Sarah saw it too. Her face went white. She's still after the money, she whispered. Even from jail, she's not going to stop. I looked back at the house, at the only home I'd known for 40 years, now transformed into a crime scene full of secrets and lies. Then neither will we, I said. Tomorrow, we go to the prosecutor. We tell them everything, every detail, every threat, every piece of evidence we have. And we make sure Diane Patterson never sees the outside of a prison cell again. And if that's not enough? I thought about Henry's note, about the money he'd stolen, about the lies he'd told, about the locked room and the forged documents and the woman in handcuffs still smiling like she'd already won. Then we pray it is, I said, because I'm too old and too tired to keep running from dead men's secrets. But as we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that Diane was right. This wasn't over. Not even close. The prosecutor's office smelled like stale coffee and desperation fitting, since that's exactly what Sarah and I were running on. Let me get this straight. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Webb leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples like we'd given him a migraine. Your late husband stole $2 million in 1966, faked his identity using his dead brother's name, married 2 women, possibly bigamously hid the money in a wall safe for 40 years, and now his first wife is threatening you from jail because she wants the stolen money she thinks she's entitled to? That about covers it, I said. And you want us to do what, exactly? Sarah leaned forward. Keep her locked up. She's violated parole by crossing state lines, attempted fraud, breaking and entering through her associate, and she's made direct threats against both of us. She pulled out her phone, showing him the text. This came from a burner phone registered to one of her known associates. We can prove she's coordinating from inside. Webb studied the phone, his jaw tightened. This is definitely a parole violation, and combined with her priors, the forged documents, the attempted theft. He looked up at us. I can probably keep her detained through arraignment. After that, it depends on the judge. Probably isn't good enough, I said. You didn't see her face when they arrested her. She wasn't scared. She wasn't worried. She was smiling. Like this was all part of some plan. Mrs. Patterson. She's put women in the hospital, made them disappear. One of them drove off a bridge. Another was beaten so badly she refused to testify. My voice was shaking now. And now she's after us. After me and Sarah, because we're the only ones standing between her and $2 million. Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. Let me make some calls, see what I can do. He paused. In the meantime, you 2 should consider protective custody. Safe house, police detail, something to OES. No. Sarah and I said it at the same time. Mrs. Patterson, Miss Patterson, I really think… We're not hiding. I stood up, and Sarah stood with me. We're not running. We're not letting that woman turn us into victims. Henry did enough of that already, making me into the fool who didn't know, making Sarah into the secret he kept locked away. We're done being anyone's dirty little secret. Webb looked at us like we were crazy. Maybe we were. At least let me assign a patrol car. Someone to check on you, make sure. Fine. I picked up my purse. But we're going back to that house. We're going through every inch of it. And we're finding out everything Henry kept from us. Every lie, every secret, every piece of the man we thought we knew. Is that really a good idea right now? Probably not, Sarah said, but it's the only way we're going to understand what Diane's really after, because I don't think it's just the money. I think there's something else, something Henry left behind that she needs. The house looked different in daylight, smaller, sadder, like it knew it had been built on lies and was finally collapsing under the weight of them. Yellow police tape still crossed the front door. Sheriff Morrison met us there, looking tired. You sure about this? We've already processed the scene, but we need to see it, I said. All of it. Everything. He nodded slowly. Okay. But I'm staying with you. Just in case. Just in case Diane's associates came back. Just in case the house held more secrets. Just in case we weren't as safe as we thought. We started in the locked room. The money was gone evidence now, tagged and cataloged and locked away in some government facility. But the photos remained. The letters. The cradle. 40 years of Henry's first life, preserved like a museum to his mistakes. Sarah picked up a photo album. Her hands were steadier now, like she'd cried out all her tears and was left with nothing but cold determination. I've been thinking about what my mother said, about how I had no idea who Henry really was. None of us did, I said. But what if she meant something specific? Sarah flipped through the album. What if there's something here, some clue about what else he was hiding? I started going through the boxes. Letters from Diane, most of them angry, some pleading. Photos of baby Sarah. Report cards, birthday cards Henry never sent. And then, wait. I pulled out a small leather journal hidden at the bottom of a box marked 1974 to 1975. What's this? Sarah came over. We opened it together. It was Henry's handwriting, but different, younger, messier, more desperate. The 3rd of March 1975. Tom's been dead for 6 years, and I'm still using his name, still living his life, still pretending I'm the hero he would have been, but the money's running out. The cash from Cincinnati, I've been so careful, only taking a little at a time, but Diane's asking questions. She found a bank book I thought I'd hidden, asked where the money came from. I told her my father left me an inheritance. She believed me. She always believes me. I think that's why I married her. Not because I loved her, though I did, in my way, but because she believed in me. In Hank Patterson, war hero, Purple Heart recipient, upstanding citizen. She believed in a man who didn't exist. But I can't keep this up. The FBI is still looking for Howard Patterson. I saw my face on a wanted poster last week in a post office 2 towns over. Older photo, but still me. Still recognizable. I need to disappear again. Start over. Become someone new. I'm sorry, Diane. I'm sorry, Sarah. But I can't be your husband and father anymore. It's too dangerous. For all of us. I flipped through more pages. Entries spanning 1975 to 1978. Henry or Hank or Howard planning his escape. Researching new identities. Practicing new signatures. And then, dated April 1978, I met someone. Her name doesn't matter, not yet. But she's kind. She's good. She doesn't know anything about my past, and God help me, I want to keep it that way. I want to be the man she thinks I am, the man Tom would have been. I'm going to marry her. Start a family. Do it right this time. Be the husband and father I should have been all along. The money's all hidden now. Wall safe behind the photo albums in the spare room. Combination is Tom's name 201513. Only fitting. It's his identity that saved me. His sacrifice that gave me this second chance. If anyone finds this journal, if anyone reads these words, just know, I tried. I really tried to be good, to make something worthwhile out of the mess I'd made. But some stains don't wash clean. and some lies are too big to bury. Sarah was crying again. He knew. He knew he was building his life with you on top of lies, and he did it anyway. Because he was selfish. My voice was hard. Because he was a coward who'd rather create new victims than face his old mistakes. I kept reading. The entries got sparse after 1978. Just occasional notes. 1,983 saw Sarah today. She's so grown up, so much like her mother. I gave her a letter, a key. Maybe someday she'll understand. 1,995. 20 years with her. 20 years of pretending. 20 years of looking over my shoulder. But she still doesn't know. Still believes in Henry Patterson. Good husband. Good father. Sometimes I think that's worse than the lying. The fact that she loves someone who doesn't exist. 2008, Diane found me. I don't know how, but she knows where I live. She knows about my new family. She's demanding money. I told her about the safe. Gave her the combination. Told her to wait until after I'm dead. Maybe that'll keep her quiet. Maybe not. But at least I'll be gone, before it all falls apart. He told her, Sarah whispered. He gave Diane the combination, before he died. Then why did she need us? I looked at Sheriff Morrison. Why go through all this, the forged marriage certificate, the threats, the break-in if she already knew where the money was? Morrison's face went grim. Because she tried to get it already, and something went wrong. He pulled out his phone, making a call. Yeah, it's Morrison. I need you to check something. The wall safe from the Patterson house. When was it installed? And has anyone tried to open it before we did? He listened, his expression darkening. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks. He hung up. The safe was broken into approximately 6 months ago. Someone tried to crack it, left tool marks, damaged the locking mechanism. They didn't get it open, but they tried. 6 months ago, right after Henry died. Diane came here, I said slowly. She broke in, tried to open the safe, and failed. And then she realized she needed the combination, Sarah finished. But Henry was dead, and the only other people who might know anything about it were us. I sat down hard on Henry's reading chair. She wasn't after the money directly, she was after information, clues, anything that might tell her how to open the safe. But we opened it with Tom's name, Morrison said, 201513. Why didn't she try that? Because she didn't know about Tom. Sarah was flipping through the journal frantically. Look, Henry never mentions his brother's name in the journal. He just says, T, or my brother, or... She stopped. Wait, there's a page torn out. Right here between March 1975 and April 1975. We all stared at the ragged edge where a page had been ripped free. Diane took it, I said. When she broke in 6 months ago. She found the journal, found whatever was on that page, and took it. But it wasn't enough, Morrison said. Whatever was on that page, it didn't give her the combination. So she came up with a new plan. Forge the marriage certificate, claim the estate, force you out so she could search the house more thoroughly. And when that didn't work, when we exposed her fraud, she sent someone to break in and try again. Sarah's face was pale. But what was on that page? What did my father write that was so important? I thought about Henry, about 40 years of secrets, about locked rooms and stolen identities and lies built on top of lies. There's only one way to find out, I said. We need to talk to Diane. The county jail smelled like bleach and broken dreams. Diane sat across from us in the visitor's room, still wearing that orange jumpsuit, still smiling that poisonous smile. Well, she said. The widow and the daughter. Come to gloat? We opened the safe, I said flatly. We found the money. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or rage. Hard to tell. Congratulations. I assume you're turning it all over to the authorities like good little citizens? Already done. Sarah leaned forward. But that's not why we're here. We found the journal. The one you stole a page from. And we want to know what it said. Diane's smile widened. Oh, that. You know, it's funny. Henry was so careful about some things, the safe, the money, the identity changes, but he got sloppy at the end. Sentimental. She leaned back in her chair. That missing page? It was a confession. A full confession about the bank robbery in Cincinnati. Names, dates, details, everything. My stomach dropped. Why would he write that down? Because he was dying, and he wanted someone to know the truth, wanted to clear his conscience before he faced whatever comes next. She laughed. Pathetic, really. 40 years of lies, and at the end, he wanted absolution. Where's the page now? Morrison asked. Burned it. 6 months ago, right after I found it. Couldn't have that floating around, could I? Bad for business. She looked at me. But I memorized it first, every word. Every detail, including the part about you. My blood ran cold. What about me? Oh, sweetheart, you really think Henry married you because he loved you? Diane's eyes glittered. He married you because you reminded him of someone. Someone from the bank robbery. Someone he'd hurt. I don't. Your maiden name, what was it? Chen, I whispered. Margaret Chen. And in 1966, there was a bank teller at Cincinnati First National named Lisa Chen, 23 years old, engaged to be married. During the robbery, she tried to hit the silent alarm. Diane's voice was soft now, almost gentle. And Henry, or Howard, as he was called then, Pistol, whipped her so hard she spent 6 weeks in the hospital, lost the sight in her left eye. Her fiancé left her. She never married, never had kids. Died alone in a nursing home in 2003. The room spun. That's not. Your aunt, Diane said. Lisa Chen was your aunt, your father's sister. And Henry knew. He knew when he met you, knew when he married you. Knew every single day for 40 years. She leaned forward. He married you because he felt guilty. Because living with you, loving you, raising a family with you, that was his penance. His way of making it right. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't. Sarah's hand found mine. She's lying, she has to be lying. Am I? Diane pulled out a piece of paper. She'd had it tucked in her sleeve. A photocopy. I made a copy before I burned the original, just in case. Look at the date on top, April 2024, a month before Henry died. She slid it across the table. I didn't want to look, didn't want to see, but I looked anyway. Henry's handwriting. His confession. And the worst part is, I married her, Margaret Chen, Lisa's niece. I didn't plan it, didn't even know who she was at first. But then she mentioned her aunt one night, showed me a photo, and I recognized Lisa's face. Those same dark eyes. That same gentle smile I'd seen in the bank right before I should have walked away. Should have ended it before it got serious. But I couldn't. Because maybe, just maybe, if I could make Margaret happy, if I could be a good husband to her, a good father to our son, then maybe I could balance the scales. Maybe I could make up for what I'd done to Lisa. I know that's not how it works. I know I'm a coward and a liar and worse, but I loved her. God help me, I really did love her. Even if our whole marriage was built on blood, money, and guilt and the ghost of the woman I'd destroyed. The paper fell from my hands. 40 years of marriage, of love, of building a life together. All of it was a lie. All of it was guilt. I'm sorry, Diane said, and for the first time she actually sounded sincere. I really am. Henry destroyed a lot of lives. Mine, Sarah's, yours. And even now, even dead, he's still destroying them. I stood up. My legs were water, but I stood anyway. Mrs. Patterson, Morrison started. I need to leave. I can't. Sarah grabbed my arm, steadying me. We're going. Right now. We walked out of that jail, past the guards and the metal detectors and the smell of bleach and broken dreams. We made it to the parking lot before I collapsed. I didn't cry. I was too empty for tears. Too hollowed out, too broken. I don't know who I am anymore, I whispered. If my marriage was a lie, if Henry only loved me out of guilt, if my whole life was just his way of paying off a debt. Stop. Sarah knelt beside me, her hands on my shoulders. Listen to me. Henry was a liar, a criminal, a coward. But you were real. Your love was real. The life you built, the son you raised, the person you became, that was all you. Not him. You. But he might have married you for the wrong reasons, but you stayed married for the right ones, because you loved him, because you built something good, because you chose, every day, to be his partner. She helped me up. Don't let him take that from you. Don't let him make you into another victim. You're stronger than that. I looked at her, at Henry's daughter, at the secret he'd kept locked away, at the woman who'd spent 45 years searching for a father who'd never wanted to be found. How do you do it? I asked. How do you keep going, knowing what he did to you? Because the alternative is letting him win. Sarah's smile was sad but real. And I'm done letting Henry Patterson or Hank or Howard or whoever the hell he really was control my life. I'm done being his dirty secret, his mistake, his locked room. A car pulled up. Webb, the prosecutor, getting out in a hurry. Mrs. Patterson, Miss Patterson, thank God I found you. He looked worried. Diane's being released. What? Judge granted bail 2 hours ago. Some high-powered lawyer showed up, argued that she's not a flight risk, that the charges are circumstantial, that look, I tried to stop it, but… When? Morrison's hand was on his gun. Now. She's being processed out right now. Webb looked at me. You need to get somewhere safe, somewhere she can't find you, because she's not going to stop until… Behind him, the jail doors opened. Diane walked out in her silk scarf and designer shoes, looking like she'd just finished a spa day instead of 24 hours in county lockup. She saw us, smiled, and started walking over. Hello, ladies, she said pleasantly. Fancy meeting you here. Stay away from us, Sarah said. We have a restraining order being filed right now. Oh, I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to make you an offer. Diane stopped a few feet away. The money in the safe, $2 million, give or take. We split it. 3 ways. You, me, Sarah. We take Henry's blood money and we disappear. Start over. Leave all this. She gestured at the jail, at Morrison, at the prosecutor. Behind us. That money's evidence, Morrison said. No one's splitting anything. Is it, though? Diane's smile was sharp. Because according to my lawyers, the statute of limitations on the bank robbery expired in 1976. Which means technically, that money doesn't belong to the bank anymore. It belongs to Howard Patterson's estate. Which, depending on whose marriage certificate the court believes, means it belongs to either me or her. She pointed at me. Either way, it's ours. And we'd be fools not to take it. You're insane, I said. I'm practical. Henry ruined all our lives. Don't we deserve some compensation for that? She pulled out her phone. I'm giving you 24 hours to think about it. After that, I'm filing a civil suit for the entire estate. And trust me, I have lawyers who are very good at making widows disappear into legal hell for years. She walked away, heels clicking on the pavement, leaving us standing there in the parking lot with the ruins of our lives scattered around us like broken glass. What do we do? Sarah whispered. I thought about Henry, about 40 years of lies, about my Aunt Lisa dying alone in a nursing home, about the locked room and the stolen money and the man who'd built his entire life on guilt and cowardice. And I thought about what Sarah said, about not letting him win, about being more than his victim. We burn it down, I said quietly. All of it. The house, the money, everything he left behind. We take away Diane's leverage. We take away Henry's legacy. And we start over. For real this time. The house is evidence, Morrison said. You can't just… Watch me. I turned to Webb. How long until the estate is settled? Until I officially own that house and everything in it? If we can prove the marriage to Diane is invalid, maybe a few weeks, maybe less. Then in a few weeks, I'm selling it. Every stick of furniture, every photo, every memory. And whatever I make from the sale, I looked at Sarah. We split it, 50-50. Not because Henry wanted us to, but because we're choosing to. Because we're building something new out of the wreckage he left behind. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. You'd do that? For me? You're his daughter. You deserved better than what he gave you. We both did. I took her hand. So let's give ourselves something better, something real, something that's ours, not his. Morrison was shaking his head. This is crazy. Diane's still out there. She's still dangerous. And you want to tar devanay chatter devanay tamane tan. Rebuild. I straightened my shoulders. We want to rebuild, together. And if Diane wants to stop us, I looked in the direction she'd gone. Let her try. 3 weeks later, I signed the papers selling the house. 3 weeks after that, Sarah and I used the money to buy a small bookstore in Portland. And 6 months after that, when Diane showed up at our door with her lawyers and her threats and her poisonous smile, we called the police, we filed charges. We testified in court about her fraud, her violence, her decades of destruction. And we watched her go back to prison. For good this time. The day the verdict came in, Sarah and I stood in our bookstore, built with our choices, our work, our determination to be more than Henry's lies, and we raised a glass of cheap champagne. To Henry, Sarah said, may he rot in peace. To us, I corrected, may we finally live in it. We drank, and then we got back to work. Because we weren't his widow and his daughter anymore. We were just 2 women who'd survived the same coward and came out stronger on the other side. And that was something worth building a life on. Something real, something true, something Henry could never take away.